I want to make something clear. I want to turn the flashlight on something here. If you own properties and you're hiring cheap people to do the repairs and maintenance on those properties, you're just going to cost yourself a whole bunch of money downrange. So you're basically spending a little bit of money so that later you can spend a lot of money. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I used to have this handyman that worked for me. He did everything for $1.25. Where is he now? Well, I don't know. He worked for me for a couple of years, then he's gone. Yeah, because he was working for $1.25. And here's the problem. He worked for you for a couple of years. Now you've hired somebody else because the problems that he was bubblegum together are now unraveling. And because they're unraveling, now you're spending twice as much money on the backside to try to get the thing right. It's not going to happen. You're going to get what you pay for in property maintenance. If you're spending a little bit of money, you're going to get a little bit of work. And in most of the cases, these cheap handymen, they're very unreliable. They don't show up when they say they're going to. They take twice as long as they say they're going to. And then the quality is half what they said it was going to be. So they're not worth having. It's not worth spending the little bit so that you can spend a lot later on. And then when it unravels, and here's the argument that's made for getting the cheap handyman, right? Instead of a company that does property maintenance, a company that's licensed, insured, bonded even. They're able to pull permits because they have licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, licensed HVAC. So when they do work, they can pull a permit on it. You know, some of this stuff, you have somebody break into a fuse panel, a utility box for the power. Some handyman getting there and monkey around, the house burns down. It's over. Your financial future's done. You get some, because the handyman's going to say, "I wasn't me. I don't even know who this was. I never seen that place before in my life. He's not licensed. He's not insured. He don't have anything to lose to moving out of town. Who knows? The guy disappears into the sunset. You're not going to be able to do anything. All because you hired this cheap guy. It's just, I see these things go on. I see these property owners. I see these buy these old beat up properties, put 2 cents into them, try to turn them around, put these tenants into them. And then the properties fail. And then when they fail, they're like, I can't believe that property failed. When the guy that they paid to get the property ready, charged them $11 to do the work. And the most of the work was so shoddy, it was unbelievable. They had duct tape and super glue holding things together all around this place. And then when things fail, they're shocked. They're like, what? I can't believe that broke. The guy just fixed it. Get him on the phone. I can't. He won't answer my calls. He's not answering my text. You know, trying to save a dime and cost you $1. That's what it always happens. Always happens. And here's the thing. You know what will happen? Is that the property owner will have, and maybe they self-managed for a bit or something, or maybe they've looked on Craigslist and hired somebody and they told their property manager, use this guy, he's a friend of mine, when the guy didn't even know him. Use this guy, I've known this guy for years, guy didn't even know him. Guy goes into shoddy work only because he was really cheap. And then all hell breaks loose. And then the property sits there because the guy that turned it did an awful job and took forever to do it, so the property's sitting there. And the funny thing is they'll have a person that says, I can turn an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, 500, 800, 900 square foot apartment, I can turn it for $200 in 2 days. And they're a month downrange getting this $200 turn done a month later. So now they've lost the opportunity for at least a month's worth of rent, half a month's worth of rent. It's a $1,000 a month apartment. You've lost $500. Now you could have paid somebody. You could have paid somebody who's real and really got in there and got it done. You could have paid them $800 or $900 and had a real high quality job for $800 or $900. Instead, you want the $200 cheapo guy. When you go in and try to pinch them pennies, it's always costing you $1 later on. We have this one property that the guy called and something was wrong. This is a good example. Something was going on in the bathroom, and we have a company that we use called Works Rental Fix, and we do a lot of business with them. So they give us a really good price on things. A lot of times they won't charge us service calls and stuff, especially if they're going to particular properties and they've been there before for different things. Anyway, so they go over to look at this thing, and the guy was saying that when he opened his medicine cabinet mirror, the whole medicine cabinet came out of the wall. And sure enough, it did, because there was nothing holding it in. Somebody had like stuck it in and caulked around it, and the caulk got old because it was old. And so when the guy opened it, it came in. So the works guy, when he went over, he said he kind of looked in the wall, see if there was any like a stud he could he can screw into to hold it in place. And the guy had, this is no kidding, there was a wall stud that came from the header board up top and came down, but it didn't meet the footboard. It was just dangling in the air. And it was like, why would they do that? And then the guy looks in and he said, because there was no footboard in that area, because there used to be I guess a closet or something there that they covered up with this wall. And that's how they framed it in. Just had this thing hanging so they could grab the drywall up above it onto this piece that was hanging from the header board. It was crazy. And that same apartment, they've been back there multiple times. And this guy who owns the property paid some cheapo guy to go in there and remodel them. And he did a bunch of them for him, because he did them all for like $1.298. It took him forever to get them done. So that's what happens. These property owners, they want to go hire these cheap guys that come and do cheap work. They take forever to show up. If they show up, then they don't show up. Then you got to try to find somebody else. They don't want to show up. And it's a lot of work for a property manager to deal with that. And then there's ramifications, right? If you're doing a turn, the apartment sits vacant for a month, you've now lost the rent money for a month, which means you could have hired the good guy for the money that you are now losing. You could have hired the guy that was going to do it right, and you don't have to go back and fix it again. So if there's any one of you folks out there that are investors in investment property and rental properties, and you hired yourself a property manager, listen, don't beat up on your property manager. Don't lose a bunch of money. Let them hire the people that they're used to working with. Let them hire the people that are licensed. Let them hire the people that have enough people to go do the job so you can get there on time and get the job done quicker. That's somebody that's 24-hour responsible. They'll come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and fix the running toilet. You got to do that. You just got to spend the money. If you go and hire cheap guys to do that because you're going to make an extra $2, an extra $100 or something on property, it's just going to cost you in the long run with either redoing work or some lawsuit that stems from it, or they damage something and don't have any insurance to cover it. I mean, just so many different ways they're going to do that. And in my experience, as an experienced property owner myself, I can tell you right now, it doesn't pay to pinch pennies. Thanks for watching.